Welcome to the Deep Dive, the Nepali Diaspora Network podcast. As always, our mission is to cut through all the noise and really deliver the essential insights, the news, and the views that affect Nepalese all around the world. We want to keep you connected, keep you informed no matter where you are. And this week, the sources are showing a nation that's really at a fascinating pivot point. You got this immediate political fallout and demands for accountability on one hand, and on the other, they're clashing directly with these really ambitious long-term national policy goals. So today we're going to dive into the lingering mandate of that youth movement. We'll look at some huge shifts in economic policy and also highlight some real resilience in communities across Nepal.
Exactly. It's that tension that's so palpable when you look at the reports. You see the government directly responding to public outrage over governance. They're naming martyr days, they're addressing fraud cases, but at the very same time, they're trying to accelerate these huge economic reforms, things like infrastructure financing and green energy policy. It's a classic tightrope walk. How do you secure that long-term stability when the immediate demands are all about transparency and reform right now?
Okay, let's unpack that political reality then, starting with the government's direct response to the Gen Z movement, a movement which tragically created martyrs. And the PM Karki government has, it seems, moved to recognize their families.
They have, and it's gone beyond just words. The cabinet held direct discussions with the families, and they've approved some pretty significant measures. For those families, I think most importantly, the government is providing identity cards with photographs to the immediate family members, so parents, children, people like that. And they've officially designated Padra 23 as the annual Gen Z Martyr Day.
That's some meaningful recognition for sure. But is it enough? I mean, the original spark for the movement was systemic failure, right? High youth unemployment, a lack of opportunity.
And that's the core issue. That's what hasn't been solved. Even the IMF weighed in on this recently. Dr. Krishna Srinivasan and Dr. Sarwajanan pointed out that, while Nepal has achieved broad macroeconomic stability, the growth hasn't been inclusive. They explicitly said that improving governance and tackling that stubbornly high youth unemployment rate, that has to be the top priority. That's the only way to really address what the youth were protesting against.
And that takes us right to legal accountability, specifically the police actions during those protests.
Yeah.
We're seeing former IGP Kapung trying to defend himself in the Supreme Court, and it's quite a thing to watch.
It is. And what's fascinating is the strategy. It's pure deflection. The former Inspector General of Police is arguing that responsibility for peace and security at the district level, it falls entirely under the Chief District Officer.
Oh, right.
Right, exactly, the CDO. He's citing an old local administration law to basically say, that wasn't my job, not the IGP's institutional responsibility. He claims all police actions were taken in good faith.
But that whole good faith narrative just completely falls apart when you look at what human rights observers were saying. We saw reports from Human Rights Watch concluding the police used indiscriminate lethal force. They were talking about metal bullets aiming for the head, chest, abdomen.
Even when their lives weren't in immediate danger, it's a massive gap between the official defense and the reported reality on the ground.
A huge gap.
Absolutely. And it makes the investigation into who gave those orders so crucial. On that note, the Probe Commission has been questioning the former Kathmandu CDO, Chabi Rial, for 3 straight days, actually, trying to trace that chain of command.
And in the meantime, the cleanup operation is still going on. The Home Minister, Ariel, reported that 727 looted weapons have been recovered.
Which sounds good, but that statistic is kind of overshadowed by the fact that over 4,500 absconding prisoners are still at large.
4,552, to be exact.
Right. That number. It just underscores this huge systemic public safety problem.
And speaking of systemic problems, the crackdown on corruption, another key reason for the protests, is really ramping up, and it's reaching some very high places.
Oh, absolutely. The Central Investigation Bureau, the CIB, has made some major arrests in the banking sector.
Who are we talking about?
The CEO of Prabhu Bank, Ashok Sherchan.
The CEO himself.
The CEO, the Deputy CEO, and the Chief Credit Officer. All on very serious charges of banking fraud.
Yeah.
The allegations are just immense. They're claiming Sherchan alone misappropriated nearly $1 billion rupees. It sends a huge signal to you, the listener, about how fragile trust in financial institutions back home can be.
And it seems accountability efforts are also pushing into new areas of social justice. There's a really profound legal challenge happening right now, protecting vulnerable groups.
It's a landmark case, really. The Supreme Court issued a show cause order against the Attorney General, specifically about his decision not to prosecute the Hope Fertility and IVF Center.
And this is the center accused of illegally extracting eggs from minors.
That's the one. And the petitioners are making a groundbreaking argument here. They're saying that inserting medical instruments for egg extraction in a minor, that it actually constitutes rape under the criminal code.
Yeah.
It's an attempt to use the highest legal definition to protect children from medical exploitation. It could set a massive precedent.
Wow. Okay, before we move on to the economy, we can't ignore the sudden political instability in Madhesh province.
Right, that was swift. Chief Minister Suraj Kumar Yadav resigned. It came right after the Supreme Court ordered him to seek a vote of confidence within 24 hours. He knew he didn't have the support, so he stepped down immediately. It just shows how fluid provincial politics are right now.
So if that's the political landscape, accountability, fluidity, let's look at the economy. How is the nation's backbone holding up? Because despite the turbulence, the macroeconomic picture is actually looking better.
It is. That's the good news. After growth dipped a couple of years ago, the IMF is now projecting an acceleration. They're estimating growth will be well above 4% for the year ending this coming July.
That's a strong recovery.
It's vital. But the key takeaway is still the same. Nepal has to boost private investment, and most of all, it needs to create jobs at scale.
Okay, let's pivot to something that could be a real game changer in policy. The green economy. Nepal just created its first legal pathway for carbon revenue.
This is huge. The cabinet approved the carbon trading regulation. And the real insight here is the mechanism. This is Nepal's first formal framework that activates the voluntary carbon market. It allows private sector companies in energy, waste management, you name it, to directly generate revenue by selling carbon credits.
So it streamlines the whole process.
Completely. Before this, every single project needed its own separate, cumbersome political approval. This converts environmental stewardship directly into capital.
A reliable funding stream for sustainability. And speaking of funding streams, the Budi and Daki project seems to be finally getting its finances in order.
Yes, PM Karki has assured everyone that the funds for the project will be reinstated under its original name. It's being elevated to a top national priority, and they have a really innovative financing model.
What's the plan?
They're proposing to dedicate 50% of the infrastructure tax that's collected from petroleum imports directly to the project.
That's clever. Linking the cost of imported fossil fuels directly to funding national green energy. But does that create a risk, tying a huge project like this to volatile fuel prices?
That's the inherent risk, absolutely. It's going to demand very careful management. And while we're on energy and environment, there's another debate emerging. Environmentalists are calling for the Ministry of Forests and Environment to be split up.
Split into two separate ministries.
Exactly. They argue the current structure is so dominated by forestry concerns that it's holding back progress on other urgent issues, things like air pollution and climate change innovation.
Right. Well, policy needs infrastructure to work, and we have some big updates on that front. A major deal with Japan for the Koteshwar Intersection Improvement Project.
A huge deal. A loan worth about 34.6 billion Japanese yen. This will fund an underpass and a flyover, which will be absolutely critical for easing that nightmare traffic in the Kathmandu Valley.
And some older projects are finally seeing results, too.
They are. The Riagdi section of the Bini Jamsum Kerala Road. It has finally been blacktopped after 19 years.
19 years. Wow.
I know. Meanwhile, the Narayan-Kapilwal 4-lane road is at 76% progress.
Though it still seems like project delays are a constant challenge.
They are. Minister Gising had to personally intervene to get contractors to finish the Koshi Hospital buildings in Bharatnagar. After 4 years, progress is only at 35% and 60%. It just shows that gap between signing deals and actually getting things built.
But let's end this section on a really uplifting note. The entrepreneurial spirit in Nepal is it's surging.
Is phenomenal. The Industrial Enterprise Development Institute received over 10,000 applications for its concessional loan scheme for startups.
10,000.
10,244 to be exact, for a fund of 730 million rupees. The demand is it's just off the charts. It shows this massive interest from young people in creating their own opportunities at home.
Let's shift our focus now to community and resilience, starting with tourism, which is showing a really strong recovery.
Indeed. Foreign tourist arrivals in Mustang were up over 10%, over 150,000 visitors in the first 11 months of the year. And regional tourism is working too. Indian tourist arrivals tripled at Palpa's Kamakhya Dam, thanks to the Lumbini cable car.
We also have this incredible story that just exemplifies resilience and advocacy.
You must be talking about Dilip Sepkoda and Shishir Dahal.
The wheelchair bungee jump.
The historic wheelchair bungee jump over the Butakoshi River. It wasn't just an adventure. Sepkoda is a prominent advocate for inclusive tourism. He uses these incredible feats to inspire confidence and to force the conversation about accessibility in Nepal. It's a powerful statement disguised as an extreme sport.
That kind of internal advocacy is crucial, but we also have to touch on some persistent public health issues. What are the key concerns?
Well, on World AIDS Day, the numbers were quite sobering. An estimated 23% of HIV-infected Nepalese still don't have access to antiretroviral treatment, ARV treatment. That's thousands of people. And on top of that, in places like Chitwan, there's a rise in other STDs among the HIV-infected community. And the stigma is still so persistent that some ambulance drivers apparently still hesitate to transport these patients.
That's heartbreaking. Looking ahead, what's the winter forecast looking like for families back home?
Generally, less rain and above-average temperatures for most of Nepal. But in Upper Mustang, the cold is already extreme. Temperatures have dropped to minus 15 degrees Celsius. It's freezing water sources, forcing people to melt ice with precious fuel just to get drinking water.
And finally, let's touch on Nepal's continued strength on the global stage.
Yes, Nepal's reputation in peacekeeping remains incredibly strong. Lieutenant General Tresta was just appointed force commander for the UN mission in Abai. And at home, there was a wonderful cultural return. A Malla-era Toran of archaeological importance was returned to the Kumari Gar in Kathmandu, all the way from the United Kingdom.
And connecting back to our global community, PM Karki expressed confidence that the recent unity declaration of the Non-Resident Nepali Association, the NRNA, will be a milestone for the country's development. Okay, let's wrap up the news with a quick update from the cricket field. The Nepal Premier League is really gaining some serious traction.
It is. The domestic talent is shining right alongside big international names like Jason Roy. Sudarpesham Royals are the team to beat, still undefeated, and the Lumbini Lions just secured their own playoff spot by beating the Janapur Bolts.
And the future of women's cricket looks bright as well.
It does. The preliminary 26-member team was announced for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup qualifier, and it's going to be hosted right there in Nepal starting January 12th. So we wish them all the best on their home turf.
Before our final thoughts, just a quick mention of a really valuable resource for our global community, especially if you are living in or maybe planning to move to the UK. Be sure to check out belayat.uk. It's a community-focused classifieds platform made specifically for the Nepalese diaspora. It makes it so much easier for you to find jobs, housing, local events, and to support Nepalese-owned businesses across the UK. It's a great way to strengthen those community ties.
So what does this all tell us? I mean, we've covered a period of immense pressure. You've got the government grappling with the political fallout from the Gen Z movement. You have the exposure of massive financial corruption with the CIB arrests. And at the same time, they're pushing this forward-looking policy, the carbon trading regulation, major foreign infrastructure funding. It's a mix of just immense opportunity and huge systemic risk.
It certainly is a dynamic time for Nepal. Thank you for diving deep into the source material with us. And if you want the full context, all the stories and resources we drew from for this deep dive, just remember to visit nepalidiaspora.net for the full newsletter.
So I think the critical question for you, the listener, to consider is this. We saw this accelerated economic planning this week, massive Japanese loans, the new carbon trading regulation, a projected 4% plus GDP recovery. But when you consider the widespread fraud arrests, the former IGP's bureaucratic maneuvering, and that instability in Madhesh province, can Nepal's robust economic policy progress truly outpace the systemic challenges of accountability and transparency that the youth movements keep exposing? That gap between ambitious policy and honest practice, I think that defines the next chapter.
A profound thought to leave you with. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.